So, after beating 3 street racers in San Diego, we've now reached 5% completion, and ultimately we've now got 1 street racer left. Vanessa will come back in a bit, but right now we need to go and get after Phil. So we are just going to continue the career and chase after him on his hot match Quivito.
Orale, now you better win now.
So I pretty much have everything on this thing except for the engine upgrade. And I will basically get that fitted as soon as I am done with Phil. You can also run into these racers as well if you really wanted to.
Aw man, you gotta race my homie Phil? That guy is insane. But that hot match is firme.
I'm sure it is actually. So, racing Phil to his location. Might have also missed a shortcut there potentially, but whatever, it's fine. I know where the road leads, and I'm also pretty sure that I will just stick to the main road. And now let's race Phil, who isn't even at the meetup point yet, but whatever. As we begin with Curb Dogs. I'm pretty sure this is a race we technically did before, if I remember correctly. We might also need to put some customization on this thing once we're done here, but since I actually have some upgrades on now, I should at least be able to hopefully keep up with Phil in certain areas. Because I think as soon as I beat him in one of these races, that's when we'll unlock the Class C vehicles. And I think it's also somewhere after that where we should also gain access to the Chopper of America Bike Club, which is the 4th set of club races we can do. But either way, these upgrades are helping me to keep up with him, and I can certainly say the car handles slightly better than it did before, so I know I've got more of a turning response. I think the car might actually be loose enough to be to my liking, because I always like to make sure that my car is handling good and also I'm handling tight. And using nitrous for the finisher, and I set a 129.69. Nice. Beating Phil by 3.9 seconds, and then Alexa 3rd with Maddie 4th. Were there more of us in this race? I'm not sure if there were. Lex 5th, and were there 6 of us in this race? I can probably give it a few seconds to see if whether or not anyone else makes it. No. I don't think anyone else is going to make it. Could have just been 5 of us. You know what? It's fine. So, we got 1300 credits back. I think we need at least 2.5 grand for the engine upgrade. I didn't check the price, but I think that's what it is. So now, let's move on to race 2. Wherever that is. Alley Assault. And where if we win we'll get 1200 credits. Or $1,200 added to our bank. So we've got a Cadillac CTS, along with a Mercedes CL500, I think. And I think that's another CL500, and oh boy, it's raining. Usually if it rains, it means there's going to be less grip, and there's typically going to be more chaos. But in the first race at least, I do have the honours of saying that I did manage to beat Phil. At least in the first encounter we had. I was able to emerge victorious in that. And maybe I should have taken the other route. You know what? Okay, it's fine. It is fine. Well, at least it helped me to correct my path for a split second. Yeah, I figured if it was going to be wet, then this is probably worth it, deeply. Which is obvious. Unless I somehow get lucky. This is probably going to be all luck and no skill. Although, the way in which I got past Phil, that might have been 10% skill. So in our first rain race, I actually managed to come out on top by just over 2 seconds over Phil. Then Liam was 3rd with Curly 4th, Dubes finished in 5th with Royne 6th, with Dwayne finishing 6th, and Ivana finished 7th and last.
What'd I tell you? You was racing a fool.
I can assure you, Phil is no fool, Oscar. And we've now unlocked the Class C vehicles in our garage. It will also be our first of many vehicle unlocks that will come throughout this game. And before we look at those, let's get our replay. Because we might as well. So, surprisingly, despite numerous attempts in that race to lose it, I somehow managed to do just the opposite and win. So, as it turns out, it pays to be fast. And in some cases, if possible, it also pays to be lucky. Which is what I think I was. I certainly felt lucky anyway. Yeah, that was honestly a little understeer when I was trying to avoid that building. I couldn't quite get the steering lock I was looking for to avoid it. That was what resulted in me hitting the building. The oversteer was too much for me to overcome. And this was basically when I and just galloped to the finish. Like red rum. Anyway, that's now the end of race 2. Yeah, sorry about that. I had to mute my microphone because something was flying over my house. I think it might have been a plane or something. I couldn't tell for sure. But anyway. And now we're up against Mercedes G-Wagons, aside from Phil for this one. So essentially we're up against some trucks here. Although it's probably more like SUV wagons, if you want a more accurate description. Because typically when people think of Mercedes G-Wagons, they normally think of effectively super utility vehicles, which is what SUV stands for. But anyway, unlike last time around when I was getting my ass handed to me on a plate, things are actually going really well this time, considering I have now beaten Phil twice in the first 2 races. Which, to be honest, is actually more comforting than I thought it was going to be. Although I suppose it also comes from my prior experience of having to suffer to know about this. And Phil just shot through the shortcut like a cannon, as I almost hit the tram there, but managed to stay away from it. He's going to try and beat me on pace, but hopefully he doesn't. And I just managed to edge out Phil at the line again. By 12 hundredths of a second. Then it was Mandrew who finished in 3rd, followed by Wayan 4th. Then it was Sarah who finished in 5th, followed by Mark in 6th. And then Tari was 7th and last, 12 seconds behind me and Phil.
Yeah, homie, I'm impressed.
Honestly, I'm actually surprised to say this has been going as well as it has, considering I have now already beat Phil 3 straight times. I think. So suffice to say, the upgrades are a huge benefactor. As we now move on to our final race with Phil, split decision. And then once we're done here, we can pretty much get some more money by doing some of the optional races. And then I think afterwards we'll get on with the club races. Because I would think for the tournaments we are going to need some extra money to really compete for those. As already one of the G-Wagons is getting rid of his nitrous early, which is what I would have expected. That normally does happen at one stage or another. Is it going to be 4 for 4 against Phil? Possibly? Question mark? It may require some work, but I don't think it's impossible, given how well I have been running with this upgraded car, even despite me not having all the performance parts. I think beating him is possible, if I can manage to minimize the mistakes, which is what I'm trying to do. And couldn't really do anything about that Escalade there, but I do manage to clear the caddy. No idea how I was able to shoot through that gap, but I am so glad I did. And I think I'm going to go this way. And I have no idea how I pulled that off, but I basically racked and won at the same time. And I beat Phil for a sweep in pretty much all 4 of his races, I think. I'm pretty sure that was a sweep. But anyway, I beat Phil to the line again by 2 seconds, with Stoby 3rd, Kyle 4th, and Terry finishes 5th, and I think last. Unless there was anyone else, but I don't think there was. Whatever orale means. And we did manage to gain a bit of money back again, as we're back up to 5 grand now. And we have won the Hot Match Quivito, along with access to the club races for the Chopper of America Bike Club, who challenges me. And so, that is now the end of Phil. And now let's go and collect our Hot Match Quivito, which will be available to us in the garage.
Look at that baby there, now that's firme. Custom built chrome everywhere. Hot Match Chopper Cuervito, you know that'll fly.
So that's now our quartet of races done with Phil. And I think Vanessa will pop back up on the map again at some point. But before then, let's head to the garage and look at our Hot Match Quivito. Because we can. And I think what I will do next time is get on with the optional races, because we will need some extra money once we've got the engine upgrade fitted, and it only costs 1,500 to fit, so we'll use that to our advantage. And now let's go and look at our new ride. The Hot Match Chopper Quivito. And if you're asking what the default AI is for this, as I'm hearing a plane flying over my house again. At least I think it's a plane. So, this is what the Quivito looks like. Does look pretty cool, even if these bikes, from what I know, are fictional. But nonetheless, still a cool looking bike, so now we will head back to the main menu and look at our stats. So I will need to do some editing here for a moment. whilst I get you back to the stats screen. So these are now our updated stats, as we have now beaten 4 racers, and we also managed to achieve a clean sweep against Phil, as we've now unlocked 26 vehicles. Our skill rating is up to 23, and we've now reached 7% completion, with a total now of less than 80 grand earned in total cash. So that'll do it for episode 4 of Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition, and next time we will be doing some optional racing shit to get some more cash. See you then.